knees, your hands were folded in front of her, your forehead nearly touching the cold floor as you sobbed and begged. Please don't tell me. I'll work, I'll leave, I'll disappear. Just don't do this, please. Your stepmother didn't even look at you. She was too busy counting the thick bundles of cash she had just received. I have waited too long to get rid of you, she said, snapping the briefcase shut. Your father is dead. You're not my responsibility anymore. You looked up, tears dripping off your chin. He wouldn't have let this happen. He loved me. She scoffed. Loved? He drank himself to death to escape the guilt of giving birth to a mistake like you. Those words crushed whatever pieces were left of your heart. Your stepsister was sprawled out lazily on the sofa behind her, sipping juice with a mocking smile. You should actually be grateful, you know. A 60-year-old man, Mafia guy wants you. She giggled, tossing her hair over her shoulder. At least someone wants you, even if he's got one foot in the grave. They both laughed. You were shaking, your knuckles were white from gripping your locket too tightly. Inside it, a photo of your mother, smiling soft-eyed, long gone. She died when you were 6, and your father, he never recovered. That night, a car pulled into the courtyard. Black, sleek, cold. You felt it before you saw it. You didn't want to look, but the sound of the engine shutting off made your heart drop. A tall man stepped out. His hair was grey, his glasses thick, his steps were heavy, slow. He leaned on a cane. He didn't speak, didn't smile. He knew instantly this was him. Your stepmother, straightened her sari, walked forward with fake grace and motioned towards you like she was giving away old furniture. She's all yours, Mr. John, she said as agreed. He glanced at you. You saw nothing behind his eyes. When he opened the car door for you, you didn't move. Not until your stepmother leaned down and hissed, "Get in, or I will drag you there myself." Your feet felt like stone, but you got in. Not because you were obedient, but because you had no fight left in you. You sat by the window, arms folded tightly, body pressed against the door, as if your hatred could form a wall. The car was silent until his voice, low and raspy, cut through the air. Your seatbelt. You ignored him, then he reached over slowly, cautiously to help buckle it. Your hand shot out and slapped his away. "Don't touch me," you said, voice sharp and cracking. He didn't react, he just leaned back in his seat. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said simply. But you turned your face back towards the window, jaw-clenched, tears burning your eyes again. You didn't believe him. You couldn't. How could anyone who bought a girl claim not to hurt her? The mansion was massive, glowing beneath moonlight. As the car rolled up the curved driveway, crystal chandeliers sparkled behind the glass walls. The building screamed wealth, but to you it felt like a case made of gold. He led you inside wordlessly, and you followed with clenched fists in silent dread. He showed you to a room bigger than your entire old home. Satin sheets, silk curtains, fluffy rugs, expensive perfume lingering in the air. But you didn't care. You dropped your bag and curled up on the cold floor beside the window, far from the bed. That night you barely slept, and the next morning when you were brought to breakfast, the fear in your chest hadn't left. The dining hall was long and cold. $1,000 breakfast was laid out across the table. He sat at one end. You sat at the farthest edge, refusing to look up. You didn't touch the food, not even water. At one point you noticed his hands tremble as he tried to hold his spoon. He couldn't lift it properly. He missed his mouth once, then twice. But you just stared at your lap. No sympathy, no help, just a thick wall of silence and disgust. After a while, you stood up and walked out of the room, still hungry, still silent. Back in your bedroom that night, you sat on the floor again, holding your mother's photo locket, whispering into it like it could hear you. His old mom. He's so old. I'm scared. I hate him. I hate this place. I want to run. I don't want to marry anyone like this. I want to fall in love. I want someone who holds my hand because he wants to, not because he paid for it. You cried quietly until you fell asleep beside the bed. But you didn't know was that Jungkook was outside, listening your every word. And he wasn't angry, he was confused. Because for the first time in years, someone didn't threaten. You didn't fake love, you didn't act sweet, you didn't want his money, you just hated him genuinely and honestly. And that honesty made you dangerous and unforgettable. The days passed, but your fear didn't fade, your hatred didn't soften. You didn't speak unless you were forced to. You didn't eat much. You avoided every glance, every corridor, wherever he might be walking. The maids were polite, too polite, and that made it worse. The way they bowed their heads and never met your eyes made you feel like a prisoner wearing silk. Jacob never tried to force anything. He never stepped into your room unless knocking first. He never raised his voice, he never touched you. But his presence haunted the air like smoke. You could always feel when he was near, that heaviness crawling across your skin. Even the slightest sound of his cane tapping the marble floors made you freeze. One morning you heard footsteps outside your room, a knock, then silence. You stayed still, heart racing. He didn't enter, he just left a small box at your door. Inside it, a phone, a credit card, and a note. You are free to leave this house whenever you want. The guards have orders not to stop you. You stared at the note for a long time. Leave. You could walk out. You stepped to the front gates that night just to test it. The guard stepped aside. You took one more step, then another. That night, wind kissed your face like a promise of freedom, but something kept you frozen. You thought about your stepmother, about your stepsister's laughter, about the humiliation. The street, no one waiting for you, no one at all. You went back inside, not because you trusted Jungkook, but because you had nowhere else to go. You were safer in a golden prison than on the cold streets with no name and no food. But you never stopped watching him, and you knew he was watching you too. It started with the way he observed you during dinner. He never spoke, but he watched every move, every bite you didn't take, every breath you held. Once you dropped the spoon and bent down to pick it up, and when you came up, he was already standing beside your chair, helping the maid clean up. You pushed your chair back immediately, heart hammering, backing away from him like he was poison. He didn't move, just nodded once and stepped back. Another time you were walking in the garden at dusk, just trying to get fresh air. You didn't expect to see him sitting near the lotus pond, reading under a warm blanket, sipping tea. Your instinct was to turn around, but then he looked up, your eyes met with him. And in that brief second, you didn't see the wrinkles. You saw the gaze of a man who had lived 1,000 years but never really lived at all. You broke the eye contact and walked away. Jungkook didn't stop you. That night, back in your room, you sat beside the bed, brushing your hair and whispering to your mother's photo. Why is he not like the monsters they said, Mafia man or mom? Why is he quiet? Why is he letting me stay without touching me? You didn't know he was standing outside your door, again, listening as always. Later that week, you received another box. This one was heavier. Inside it was a dress, elegant, soft, your favorite color. A note stayed beside it. We are having guests for dinner tomorrow. You don't need to come if you are uncomfortable, but if you choose to, this is for you. You held the fabric in your hand, feeling the softness brush your skin like a memory, and you hated yourself for how beautiful it was. You threw it on the bed, but you didn't throw it away. The next night, you wore it, not because you wanted to impress him, but because you wanted to feel like you again, like the girl who used to believe in love. You stepped into the dining hall, and the second he saw you, he stopped talking mid sentence. His guest, sharp looking men in tailored suits, all turned to stare, but Jungkook didn't let them for long. His cane hit the ground sharply as he stood, eyes down. The guests immediately obeyed. You stood there, unsure, hands nervously twisted at your sides. He walked towards you slowly, the wrinkles, the silver hair, the old man's disguise. But his presence, it wasn't old, it was commanding. You look beautiful, he said softly. But if you're uncomfortable, you can go back to your room. You nodded silently and turned around. You didn't stay for dinner there. But when you got back to your room, you didn't cry for the first time. You sat on the bed and stared at your reflection and whispered, "What is he hiding?" In the shadows of the hallway, Jungkook leaned on the wall alone, the silver wig itching against his scalp. His friend Soon's voice echoed in his head from weeks ago. "You're wasting time. These girls will never love you for you. You're rich. They will love your money, not your heart." But tonight he thought of you, of your silence, of your rage, of your pain. And the fact that you never once pretended to care, but you hated him truly. And he found that interesting, real, worth testing, maybe for the last time. 2 days passed since the dinner invitation. You hadn't spoken to him, he hadn't spoken to you. But something had shifted. You no longer cried every night. Now you whispered your mother's locket, trying to understand what game this man was playing with you. Why hasn't he touched me? Why does he look at me like he's studying me? Why am I still here? You didn't trust him. You couldn't. And that fear still lived inside your chest like a quiet storm. That night, the storm broke. You were in your room, sitting by the window, the moonlight bed, the floor in silver. You had just brushed your hair, dressed in a simple nightgown, your locket still pressed to your chest. You were lost in thought until the door creaked open, your heart chinned. You turned sharply. Jungkook stood there, silent. He didn't knock this time. You stood immediately alarmed. What are you doing here?" You asked, backing up a step. He took a slow step inside, cane tapping softly against the marble, then another. "We are getting married in 2 days," he said in that low-aged voice. "I thought maybe we could talk." You crossed your arms tightly. "Talk here? At night? In my room?" He tilted his head. "Why not?" His eyes didn't leave yours. You felt your spine lock in fear. He stepped closer. I'm just asking for one night, he said. A chance to know you, to touch you, to share the bed, if only to begin what's already planned. Your stomach dropped. You moved back again. No. His expression didn't change. Why fight it? You belong to me now. Don't say that. You snapped, ears building. You don't own me. He walked forward again, and this time you panicked. You spun around trying to reach the door, but it shut with a heavy click. Locked. You turned back to see him still standing calmly in the center of the room. You locked it. You gasped. Why would you lock the door? I just want to know the real you. How much of your hatred is real and how much of it is pretended? You shook your head, backing towards the nightstand, hands trembling. Your eyes darted to the fruit bowl. A knife, you grabbed it. Don't come closer, you said, voice cracking. I'm not afraid to use this. But he didn't come closer, not fast, not violent, just steady quiet. You're scared of me, but you don't lie about it, he said. That's what makes you different. You shouted it, slashed forward. The blade nicked his palm, blood instantly welled and red. He hissed and stepped back, and then it happened. With one hand he pulled off the silver wig, with the other he peeled off the prosthetic wrinkles, revealing smooth skin beneath. The cane hit the floor. He straightened to full height. No shaking hands, no hunched back. Just sharp jawlines, dark eyes, tousled black hair, and the body of a 25-year-old man with blood running down his wrist. You dropped the knife in shock, your mouth open, but no words came out. He stared at you. I told you, he said, voice now younger, deeper, clearer. I didn't come to hurt you. I came to see who you really were. You were frozen. What? What is this? You are not. I'm not 60, he said. I never was. He took a step closer now with no disguise. I bought you to protect you. You shook your head, backing into the wall. You lied to me. I had to, he replied, eyes locked on yours. Every girl who knows and wants me for money, for power, they fake love, they fake kindness, but you didn't. You couldn't breathe, your world spun, everything was a lie. I hated you, you whispered. I know, he said. I wanted to run away. I watched you almost do it. You disgusted me. He nodded slowly, and that disgust was the first honest thing I had seen in years. Your chest heavied. So you toyed with me for what? Again? No, he said firmly, to see if someone would treat me like a human, even when I was nothing but an old, unwanted man. You stared at him. Blood was still dripping from his hand. And your heart was beating so hard it hurt. You didn't speak again, you just turned your back to him, shaking. And he picked up the knife from the floor, looked at his wounded hand, and gave you one last look. I like this fire in you, he said quietly. Then he opened the door and walked out, leaving a trail of silence behind him. You didn't sleep that night. Your mind kept replaying the moment Jungkook dropped the disguise, the grey wig, the wrinkles, the old voice, all gone. What stood in front of you was a man, young, strong and serious, but more than that, honesty. By morning you found an envelope under your door. If you still want to leave, no one will stop you. I have set up an account in your name. You will be safe, free and far from this world. But if you choose to stay, I will wait. I won't touch you. I won't ask for your hug. I'll just be here. Jungkook. You stared at it, heart pounding, and yet you didn't leave. Not that day, not the next. You stayed, but not because you had to. You stayed because you were starting to see the man behind the mask. That evening you sat with him, no distance, no disguise. Across the balcony table, the air was quiet, but your thoughts weren't. He looked at you carefully, almost cautiously. You finally spoke. I still don't understand. Why do you trust me? He didn't hesitate. Because you never pretended. You didn't act sweet. You didn't fake affection. You hated me as an old man, but you were honest. You bit your lip, visiting with your bracelet. But I didn't like you before. Isn't that wrong? No, he said gently. That's exactly why I trust you now. You looked into his eyes, searching. He continued, voice calm but heavy. At your age, girls fall for appearance. They say they want love, but what they want is, well, comfort. I'm not saying true love doesn't exist, just that it's rare. You didn't interrupt. I have met girls who smiled at me while hating me inside. Girls who called me sweet and took money while plotting to leave the next day. Girls who said I love you with hands in my safe. Actually, they should hate me because I was 60-year-old man. What kind of young girl would like to marry me? Those all fake, like they love me because they want money, not love. His tone didn't sound bitter, just tired. The fool, you showed me kindness when you didn't have to, and still hated me when you should have. You were human, real. You didn't fake like that. You hated me honestly, and I understand you want to fall in love, not money. You exhaled, feeling something shifting in your chest. Why are you trying so hard? You asked softly. Why are you so desperate to find a girl who loves you back? Aren't you tired of trying again and again? I didn't want to, but I had to set free the girls who were sold by their parents, siblings, friends for this mafia old man. So while setting them free, I was trying to find my partner. He paused, then said something that stayed with you forever. But I was never tired because I want to love someone the way my father loved my mother. Your breath caught. He smiled faintly, gazing distant. My father didn't bring her flowers every day. He brought her medicine when she was sick. He held her when she cried. He protected her when she had nothing. I grew up watching real love, he added, so now I'm just looking for it in a world that's forgetting what it looks like. You didn't respond, you couldn't, because in that moment something inside you cracked open. You saw not a mafia leader, not a manipulator, not even a man desperate for affection. You saw a boy who grew up chasing a love story the world had buried. You saw him, and maybe for the first time, he saw you too. That night you didn't cry, you didn't hide on the floor, you sat on the bed brushing your hair quietly, holding your mother's photo locket and whispered, "He's not what I thought, Mom." The next morning you came to breakfast. He looked surprised but quickly stood and pulled out your chair, not like an owner but like a man still earning his place in your life. You sat, you didn't speak, but your eyes met and neither of you looked away. One evening as it rained outside, you stood near the balcony doorway. He joined you, arms crossed, rain glimmering behind him. Thank you for watching.